Hey guys, welcome back to the 40 Women series. We are on episode 31. So after this episode, we're going to have about 9 to go. We're almost there. How are you? Hope you're well. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Shunamite woman. Have you heard of her before? She's actually in 2 Kings chapter 4. I'm going to be reading from verse 8. It's quite a mouthful. I will read through it and then we'll talk about it. We'll talk about the story. It's a very interesting one that a lot of us can relate to. So come right with me. So verse 8 starts off by telling us that one day Elisha went to Shunem. Elisha was a prophet of God and a well-to-do woman was there. So this woman happened to be a prominent woman. She was wealthy, well-to-do, and she had urged Elisha to stay for a meal. So whenever he came by, he stopped there to eat. She said to her husband, I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. Let's make a small room on the roof and put in it a bed and a table, a chair, a lamp for him. Then he can stay there whenever he comes for us. So you see here that this woman is a very thoughtful woman. Elisha the prophet happened to be in Shunem, and she invited him one day to eat. And I think maybe from him having that meal, she realized, okay, this man doesn't have somewhere comfortable to stay. Why don't I, ask my husband if we can take him? Very thoughtful, very kind. It's the kind of hospitality that we should always have, So, and it's not just about even giving me a room. You can see the thoughtfulness. Let's make a small room for him, put a bed, a table, a chair. She thought about all the things that this man would need. And then she said he can stay there whenever he comes to us. So it wasn't only just a one-stop place. This woman intended to make room for this prophet of God whenever he comes. Thankfully, she had a wonderful husband too who was willing to support her vision. So let's give him a thumbs up for that. 11 says, one day when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. So one of these many days when he came around, he lay there. He said to his servant Gehazi, call the Shunamite. So he called her and she stood before him. Elisha said to him, tell her, you have gone to all this trouble for us. Now what can be done for you? Can we speak on your behalf to the king or the commander of the army? So Elisha is moved by this thoughtfulness, and he sent by the way, it's not only him staying there, Gehazi, who is Elisha's servant, is also staying there. So Elisha tells the servant, speak to this woman, let's know what she wants. And he was so moved by her hospitality. You've gone through all this trouble for me. Is there anything that we can do to give back, to help, or whatever? She replied, I have a home among my own people. And it's interesting as you read is that she did have a need, but in typical human fashion, well, no, not a bother. Don't worry about it. No, this thing I'm doing for you, it's not a big deal. I'm just trying to be nice. I have a home. I'm good. You know how we always like to form that everything is okay. Gehazi said, so the servant now said, she has no son and her husband is old. So Gehazi would have basically picked up that this woman doesn't have, there's no child around here, her husband is old, she has a need, it's not just about this, whatever, she has a need. Then Elisha said, call her. So he called her and she stood in the doorway. About this time next year, Elisha said, you will have a son. You will hold a son in your arms. No, my lord, she objected. Please, man of God, don't mislead your servant. And this is so, heartbreaking, because this particular line just speaks to a woman who is like don't come here. Don't come to this place. We've dealt with this matter before. I wanted a child for so long and it didn't happen. So please, this is a very soft spot for me. Be very careful with your words. Be very careful with your prophecy, that kind of thing. But Bible says that, but the woman became pregnant, and the next year, about that same time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. Elisha didn't even trade words. It came to pass whether or not she liked it. The child grew, and one day, he went out to his father, who was with the reapers. He said to his father, my head, my head. His father told the servant, carry him to his mother. After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. How sad. She went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and went out. I need to pause here for a moment. She told this man of God not to mislead her. Okay, the child came and now the child died. Can you just imagine the confusion in that moment? Like, I told this man not to play with my feelings and not to play with my emotions. But the truth is that in life, tragedy happens, tough things happen, difficult things happen that we do not even envisage or we do not see coming. Life happens. But you know what's so funny? This woman didn't panic. She just put the child on the man's bed and went out to go and look for him. She called her husband and said, please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of God quickly and return. Why go to him today? The servant asked. It's not the new moon or Sabbath. She said, that's all right. When she reached the man of God at the mountain, she took hold of his feet. Gehazi came over to push her away, but the man of God said, leave her alone. She's in bitter distress. But the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me why. Did I ask you for a son? My Lord, she said. Didn't I tell you not to raise my hopes? Right? Elisha said to Gehazi, tuck your cloak into your belt, take my staff in your hand and run. Don't greet anyone you meet, and if anyone greets you, do not answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face. But the child's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, I will not leave you. So he got up and followed her. Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face, but there was no sound or response. So Gehazi went back to meet Elisha and said to him, the boy has not awakened. When Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. He went and shut the door on the two of them and prayed to the Lord. Then he got on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room, and then got on the bed and stretched out on him once more. The boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Elisha summoned Gehazi and said, call the Shunamite, and he did. When she came, he said, take your son. She came and fell at his feet, bowed to the ground. Then she took her son and went out. Let's take all of that in. You know, the summary of this story just reminds me about the power of determination, not giving up. You know, there were so many moments in this story where this woman could have given up, right? She opened her home for this prophet of God, you know, to have a small room where he could stay anytime he came to town to do his business. This was her just being kind. She didn't even know her story was going to transpire the way that it did. She just simply opened her home, not wanting anything. I mean, the servant of God came to meet her and said, is there anything you need? And she was like, no, I have a home, which shows you that she wasn't even thinking about wanting a son, even though that was a need she had, which Gehazi was the one that pointed it out to the prophet of God. And so the Gehazi pointed that out, and Elisha thought, okay, this woman needs this thing, and he prayed for her. And she's first of all like, no, don't play with my emotions, don't try it. We've been here before, done that. My husband is old. This hasn't happened for me. But the word of the Lord came to pass. The word of the Lord cannot be changed. His word comes to pass, and she gets pregnant. But tragedy strikes. One day, the son is in the garden or whatever it is with the father, and he starts to scream, my head, and then the father is like, take this son to the mother quickly. I personally just thought that was passive. I'm like, you're the head of the family, you could have prayed for the boy. Like, he just told her, maybe he was busy, I don't know what that was about. But this woman took the son on her lap. She was trying to keep him well until he died. Can you imagine how heartbreaking that was in that moment, where she was like, did I not tell this man not to mess around with my emotions? And a lot of us can relate to that, where you are either waiting for something and you're waiting for so long, and you found a way to just cope through that thing. You found a way to just carry on with your life. In a way, funny enough, you're not grieving about it, you're not killing yourself about it, but you've become so jaded about the thought that that thing can happen again. And I think that's why this story is powerful. And this woman in herself didn't even realize how much faith she had, because you would have just thought she would have sat in her home and said, I knew it. I just knew that this was going to happen. But she left. She didn't even shout. She didn't even scream. She just said, I don't even know what was going through her mind in that moment. She just thought, you know what, this man that prayed for me and I got pregnant, I will go and meet him. You know, those times where before pre-Christ. So of course, men, prophets were oracles through which God spoke. So for her, that's a picture of her holding on to God, and she's like, wait, let me go and meet. And she got there. Elisha told Gehazi to go and put his staff on. She was like, no, 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 you are the one. I hold your leg and your hands. It is from you. It just tells you the kind of woman she is. You know, her faith, her heart, her determination. She didn't give up. And Elisha had to carry himself and follow this woman back. And he prayed. He did all the things that he needed to do. And her son came back to life. It's a very powerful story. And it's a reminder that miracles can meet anybody, the ordinary, the person that has given up. Because when I look at this woman, she just occurs to me with somebody that just wanted to mind her business. She was just like, this is just my home. She just saw an opportunity to be serving, to be kind, you know, opened her home without wanting anything. She just wanted to serve. And that is the kind of heart we should have, because you just never know what doors you're opening. There's a scripture that says that we should not forget to show hospitality to people, because we do not know whether we're going to receive an angel. You just don't know who and what it is. I remember many times my own mother would encourage me. She's encouraged me a few times about this, about the fact that, you know, this humble posture of wanting to help and serve, how you, even many parts in scriptures just remind us about the blessings of serving, the blessings of hospitality, the blessings of being kind. And not kind in a way that, let me just do this thing so that I can. Just kind in a way that, look, I just want to serve you. I just want to be there for you. This woman wouldn't have known that by opening her home to this man of God would have changed her story in a way that she could never imagine. And I know that in this day and age, people can take advantage of things like this and use it to manipulate people and say, do this for your prophet so you can get this, do this for your pastor so you can get this. That is not the point. Anytime we're reading the scriptures, nobody came to tell these people that you have to do this to get this. They were just living their lives. And as they were living their lives, they were giving kindness, they were giving goodness, they were, some of them, they were not perfect, you know, but you see all the stories where these people were simply just living their lives and being good humans, you know, being, you know, serving, being loving and kind. It wasn't like somebody put a stick on their head and said, oh, this is a transactional thing or a trade by barter. So that's not what this story is telling us, because people can idolize what this woman received, the son, and think, okay, let me go and look for one prophet to put in my home. Sometimes it might not be a pastor that you entertain. It doesn't have to be a prophet. It could just be you looking for opportunities where there's needs to serve, and you step into it, and God just uses that moment, uses those seemingly important moments to bless you. So let me know how the story of the Shunamite blesses you. It's an inspiring story. I feel like there's probably a lot to glean from it, but very quickly, the lessons here is show hospitality. Never give up. Don't think that your need or your story is so far gone that God cannot reach. It doesn't really matter what the circumstances are. This woman was sitting in what seemed like was never going to happen. It even feels like she had decided that this thing, I'm going to put it to bed and let me just live my life how it is. After all, I have a home, I have this, so why do I need this? No, God wants to answer that prayer. And until you leave this world, you must always believe that God has a heart to answer your prayer. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. See you in episode 32. We're moving, guys. Talk to you later. Bye.